Attention, people who still care. How can us average citizens profit from fixing our broken financial system that currently favors big banks and powerful corporations to a system that looks out for us average citizens without using politicians or regulations? This is the question we ask on the Crowd Effect podcast. I am your host, Paul Lovejoy, activist investment advisor at Stakeholder Enterprise. On today's show, Deutsche Bank agrees to pay $75 million to sex trafficking victims of Jeffrey Epstein. But before we get into that, I first want to tell a story. Virginia Giuffre sat nervously in a small interview room. She straightened her back and took a deep breath, readying herself to recount the painful memories that had haunted her for years. It was time to break her silence, to reveal the truth about her harrowing experiences with a convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia's story began long before she ever met Epstein. Born in a small town, she had dreams of escaping her humble beginnings and making a better life for herself. Little did she know that her path would cross a man whose name would become synonymous with scandal and exploitation. At just 16 years old, Virginia was working as a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's luxurious resort in Palm Beach, Florida. It was there that she encountered Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman who seemed sophisticated and worldly. Maxwell struck up a conversation with Virginia, sensing her vulnerability and her yearning for a brighter future. Virginia soon found herself entangled in a web of manipulation orchestrated by Maxwell and Epstein. The couple groomed her, luring her into a world of wealth and privilege. They promised her education, opportunities, and connections, but it was all a facade to conceal their sinister intentions. Epstein's lavish lifestyle, private jet, and opulent properties were all part of a carefully crafted image designed to entice young women like Virginia into his orbit. But behind closed doors, Epstein's true nature revealed itself as he forced Virginia into sexual encounters with him and other influential men, exploiting her vulnerability and naivety. The abuse left Virginia feeling trapped, isolated, and devoid of hope. As the years passed, Virginia continued to endure the torment, her spirit slowly eroding under the weight of Epstein's manipulations. However, deep within her, a spark of resilience flickered. She knew she couldn't allow herself to be silenced any longer. The truth had to be exposed. Virginia made the courageous decision to speak out about her experiences. She sought justice and held Epstein accountable for his heinous crimes. Her voice echoed across media outlets, shaking the foundations of the world's elite and shedding light on the dark underbelly of power and privilege. Virginia faced backlash, scrutiny, and attempts to discredit her story, but she remained resolute. Her determination was bolstered by the support of those who recognized the importance of her testimony and the urgency of exposing Epstein's vast network of abusers. Virginia's story inspired other survivors to come forward and share their own stories. The world finally began to acknowledge the pervasive and systemic nature of sexual exploitation. Epstein's web of enablers and co conspirators was laid bare, revealing the extent of their complicity. Which brings us to our main story of the day. Deutsche Bank has agreed to pay a staggering $75 million to victims of the notorious sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein, according to reports from the Wall Street Journal. Epstein's name had been as synonymous with controversy for years, initially registering as a sex offender in 2010 after a 2008 conviction for sex crimes involving an underage girl. Epstein's alleged involvement in sex trafficking spans back to the early 2000s until his final arrest in New Jersey in 2019. But what does Deutsche Bank have to do with all of this? Well, it turns out that Epstein was a customer at Deutsche Bank for several years. The recent settlement focuses on the period from 2000 to 2018 when Epstein was a customer at Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank accepted him as a customer even after he had to register as a sex offender. It alleges that the bank knew about Epstein's illicit activities but continued to benefit from his financial wealth. The victims who were ensnared in Epstein's sex trafficking ring during this time will receive compensation ranging from $75,000 to $5 million, as reported by sources. The lawsuit claims that Deutsche Bank knowingly participated and profited from Epstein's crimes by providing financial support for the continued operation of his illicit activities. This settlement is not the first time Deutsche Bank has faced legal consequences regarding its relationship with Epstein. In 2020, the bank settled with the New York Department of Financial Services for $150 million in connection with the Epstein case. At the time, Deutsche Bank acknowledged its mistake in onboarding Epstein and expressed a commitment to learning from its shortcomings. Since then, Deutsche Bank has made significant efforts to strengthen its control functions, operational processes, and training. With an investment of over 4 billion euro, the bank has increased its financial crime staff to more than 1,900 individuals. These steps are aimed at preventing similar lapses in the future and ensuring compliance with anti money laundering regulations. Nevertheless, the fallout from Deutsche Bank's association with Epstein continues. In the fall, the bank settled a shareholder lawsuit for $26.3 million. With the suit claiming Deutsche Bank lacked oversight when conducting businesses with individuals like Epstein, which allegedly caused a drop in the bank's share price. Which brings us to our financial tip of the day: bank at credit unions and become a crowd lender. While big banks dominate the financial landscape, it's essential to remember that there are alternative options available to us as consumers. Credit unions, for instance, offer an attractive alternative to traditional banks. Credit unions are not for profit financial cooperatives owned and operated by their members. They prioritize the well being of their members over generating profits for external shareholders. One of the significant advantages of banking with credit unions is their emphasis on community involvement and local decision making. Credit unions are deeply rooted in communities they serve, providing personalized services tailored to their members' needs. By banking with a credit union, you're not only supporting local businesses and initiatives, but you're also becoming part of a financial institution that prioritizes your interests. Another way to promote ethical finance and challenge the dominance of big banks is through crowd lending, also known as peer to peer lending. Crowd lending platforms connect borrowers directly with individual lenders, cutting out the middleman, the banks. This decentralized approach to lending allows individuals to invest directly in the financial success of others while earning a fair return on their investment. Crowd lending platforms offer various lending opportunities, from personal loans to small business financing. By participating in crowd lending, you become part of a growing movement that empowers individuals and bypasses the traditional banking system's limitations and potential ethical pitfalls. Moreover, crowd lending creates a sense of financial empowerment and a direct connection between lenders and borrowers. As a lender, you have the opportunity to support individuals and businesses in need, fostering entrepreneurship and economic growth. It's a win win situation that promotes financial inclusivity and rewards responsible borrowers. One of the key advantages of crowd lending is its low minimum investment requirements. This causes two very beneficial effects: inclusivity and diversification. With inclusivity, any adult with a bank account and $10 can become a crowd lender because many of these crowd lending platforms have minimum investment requirements of just $10. This also allows incredible diversification, potentially mitigating risk and enhancing potential returns. With $1,000 investment, one could be involved in 100 different loans. By engaging in crowd lending, it's important to note what you're not investing in: the stock market and corporate bottom line, not investing in outsourcing, not investing in US companies manufacturing in authoritarian controlled countries like China, all of which contribute to income inequality. By embracing credit unions and engaging in crowd lending, we can actively erode the wealth and power of big banks that engage in unethical behavior due to this relentless pressure to increase quarterly profits. We have the power to support a more ethical and community oriented financial system, one that prioritizes individuals over corporate greed. My name is Paul Lovejoy. I am a crowd investor, and I see you are one too. If you'd like to know how to profit off fixing our broken financial system without protesting or divisive political action, go to stakeholderenterprise.com.